Please be aware this will be a spoiler-filled discussion. Hello and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society, where we're ticking all the boxes and providing the much-needed minority opinion in popular internet discourse. I'm Tilly, my pronouns are she and her, and I lead the film discussions.
I'm Josh, pronouns are he and him. I lead the music discussions.
Today is a new film episode where we're going to be talking about Leos Carax's new film Annette. But first, we're going to react or just talk about the new Paul Thomas Anderson film trailer, Licorice Pizza, that just dropped. We both just watched it. Me for the first time. Josh has watched it again.
This was my third time watching it. So currently, I have to admit he is probably my favorite director.
Yeah.
He's the only director who I like. Kevin Hart his debut, which I haven't watched yet, because it doesn't feel like a real PTA film. Because even he disowned it. Was like, hey, that was mangled by the studio. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
This is my first film, guys. But anyway, have watched one of his films. You know, most of them more than once, and I adore all of them. And if I'm just honest,
Mhm.
of the directors I think about the most, it's probably him. And I know that's like a
Yeah.
very 21-year-old male favorite director, but yeah, I don't really care. I like what I like when I like it, and when I have a new
Well,
favorite director, that'll be what it is.
very briefly, yeah, I've seen Boogie Nights and Magnolia, and I can say they're both incredible films, genuinely marvelous. And I'm just preposterously excited to watch all of them because other than
Yeah, you got like straight up widely recognized
was
classics like There Will
yeah,
Be Blood. um,
so that's what's so interesting for me about him as a director is I've seen two of the films that people are like, oh yeah, those are good Paul Thomas Anderson films, probably the less celebrated ones, and I think they're
yeah.
fucking marvelous. I think Magnolia is one of my favorite movies. I love that film very much. And also you being a 21-year-old man liking Paul Thomas Anderson, I have a lot more sympathy for men who like Paul Thomas Anderson because of he's not Tarantino. Like his films are all very
Mm.
soft. I'm not talking about him as a person. Like all of his films are very tender. I would say at their core,
Mm.
they're all very tenderly emotional films. So yeah, it's not the meme so much of a guy likes macho man, what creative filmmaker.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I do think his career has been in parallel with Tarantino in a really interesting way. Except I do
yeah,
think he is kind of just I just love him so much more. Um,
yeah,
uh, and we'll get to this trailer because in the same way that it felt like There Will Be Blood and Inglourious Basterds were in conversation with each other, because Tarantino
mm,
explicitly said that he viewed PTA as basically his Hollywood rival. Like that's the guy I have to top. And
uh-huh,
Inglourious Basterds was his kind of almost not direct response, but he was thinking about There Will Be Blood when he was making Inglourious Basterds.
uh-huh.
Um, of oh shit, that was good. I have to really, really do a good
Yeah,
job here.
top that.
And this Licorice Pizza feels. There's obviously loads of films it feels like, but it feels like a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in terms of going back to a specific
Yeah.
timepiece in Hollywood and looking at aspiring stars and it
Well,
really captures that similar vibe. So I do think they are kind of in parallel a lot of the time with what they're
yeah.
trying to do with their films.
And I just rewatched Boogie Nights, so seeing a character a young male character sort of up and coming, quite with a feeling of innocence in 70s fashion, that was quite
Mm.
strange for me to see again. But I'm just gonna say best trailer I've ever seen, question mark. I am so excited. Trailers are, whatever, trailer disclaimer, not you shouldn't base whatever, but also
Oh, it's so good though.
it looks amazing because you can negotiate the trailer thing because I have nothing but high expectations of this man, and all of the imagery in that trailer was gorgeous and thrilling. I'm so excited.
Well, I hope we get to do this on the podcast. If you haven't noticed, I have been trying to like shadow cabinet his entire filmography into the podcast. But like it looked like the kind of like final form of like Dazed and Confused or Almost Famous. You know, all those like charming '90s coming of age films, especially you know, especially Dazed and Confused with you know the
Yeah.
wacky older man character that we have
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper playing, and I get almost famous from like the romance of you know the unassuming kid and the girl who's like super cool and like too cool, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
this was like the perfected like form of whatever that type of film is, and just like seeing
Yeah.
him do a coming of age romance, it's on my heart.
And it's the meme of just like, finally coming of age them. Like though like for real though, as I was watching it, I just had this feeling of like this is like chemically pure Paul Thomas Anderson. Like this is so if you
Heisenberg
made
pure.
like yeah, it's Heisenberg pure levels of like emotionally cathartic is what this film looks like to me. um
Uh,
I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with what's going on, because it was really unclear what this film was to me before this trailer, which is fine, like that's how it's meant to
Because
be.
everything we heard about it sounded like stunt casting. Like he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get like a bunch of people who've never acted before. I'm gonna get my best friend who recently passed, one of his best friends, Philip Seymour Hoffman, his son, Alan Haim of Haim fame, and Bradley Cooper, and oh yeah, one of the uh oh Safdie brothers, isn't it? Uh,
Oh my god, that is that. Oh wow, it is the woman from Haim. Oh, she looks great. She looks really, really good. What the hell? Oh my
and
god.
this is another thing I thought would make this like extremely relevant for the podcast, I guess, is this is the High movie. Like, and that's
This is
so
the.
weird to me that historically this would be remembered as the High movie.
I really would not like it to be remembered that way. Oh,
But like, it completely changes the trajectory of like Hein's presence in pop culture, right?
yeah, no, it absolutely does. It really does. Like that is such a out of left field thing. But I guess I mean it does happen as well though, where musicians do just do a one-off movie, and it's just like, oh hey, it's that one movie where the musician's in it.
I literally have like infinite faith in his handling of actors. I mean,
Oh
he
yeah.
Game like Bigger Nights was made of Marky Mark, who you know was famous for being a musician at the time. He'd only just started doing modeling. That was his first acting gig, and
God,
it's
that's
like
so
probably the
crazy.
best thing he's ever done. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That is so. I forgot about that. I always forget that he was
mm.
doing Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch at the time. And God, Boogie Nights is a great. I'm very excited. I'm very
I also
excited.
saw the waitress from Always Sunny was in the trailer for like a frame, so that was very.
Oh, good for
I have
her.
turned into like raving Marvel fan analysis for this trailer, just like frame by frame updates. You also get to see Daniela Haim talking to Elena Haim. So maybe the Haim sisters are gonna play her fictional sisters in the film.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Oh, that would be adorable. That would be
and Tom Waits has
awesome.
also been confirmed to be in the film, but I don't think he was in the trailer. But he's gonna show up at some point.
There'll probably be like a wacky scene where he's just kind of there doing some cool shit. That'd be cool. Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think he's just a director that I like. If we're gonna go back to the Tarantino thing, like even the best Tarantino films don't do for me what a Paul Thomas Anderson film does. Like I
What's your
really
favorite
adore.
Tarantino?
Um, oh, it keeps changing. I would say minus the like really glaring racial offensiveness of it, Reservoir Dogs. Um, just like purely that is probably my favorite. Um, other than that, I don't know if there's any other one of them that I don't have enough problems with to call my favorite. I think a lot of the rest of them have like things wrong with them enough that I would probably not say they're my favorite. I do enjoy Inglourious Bastards. I know you don't like that very much, but I do quite enjoy
I
that
think it's
film.
good. I just think
Yeah,
I think of Tarantino, as most of his stuff lands at like a 7 for me, pretty much. So I'm like, oh, this is really
yeah,
good. I like this, but it's not like I'm not like, oh, yes, the Kino, it's Kino time.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And even at his best, like, if I had to pick films to have with me for the rest of my life, I would always pick like Magnolia over Reservoir Dogs. I just as in terms of what I'm looking for out of movies,
Mm.
Paul Thomas Anderson gives me these certain
Yeah.
feelings that I can't get anywhere else
Yeah,
or
I don't
can.
really. I think I don't
But
really cry in Tarantino films, other than like
no,
maybe Kill Bill Volume 2 gets me.
yeah,
I think that's a pretty great film. But I
yeah,
do
it's
think
pretty
this
great.
is a sort of response to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like even the shot around 25 seconds in, you can see Hoffman dancing, like auditioning, I guess, or playing a role with a bunch of kids, and it's
Yeah.
shot in front of like the white yellowy background, which really reminds me of the shot from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood of Leonardo DiCaprio filming an advert in that kind of flashback scene. It's like the exact
Oh
same kind
my
of
god.
coloring. So I really do feel like, this is like, all right, you did your time,
Uh,
accurate Hollywood set. It's my turn now. But also it's also
well,
like a
this should
nostalgia
be
piece because obviously he would have been the age
yeah,
of he would have been a kid during during the time this film was set in this exact
yeah.
place. I mean, I'm super excited.
I'm very excited. It should be leagues and leagues above Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is a film I don't like at all. Anyway,
The
we're
Leo stuff is good. Come on.
yeah. What a it was no, this is not the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood episode. We should probably do that one day. We should I think it would be good. Anyway, uh so today we're talking about Annette, which is a comedy musical satire. I think is the best three words to tag next to it. Starring
Mm,
Adam Driver and Marion Cotillard. Also
mm.
the guy from Big Bang Theory, who he
He
thoroughly
has a
enjoyed.
name. His name is Simon Helberg, okay?
Yeah, okay, yeah, but he is the guy from Big Bang Theory. Who I thoroughly enjoyed in this film. I thought that was like really good casting. Um, so yeah, this is
Mm.
a fairly if you strip away the film's weirdness, it's a very classical story of like grand artistic love and like the broken artist essentially,
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
that is. And that being Adam Driver in this film, which was super. I think Adam Driver. I loved seeing him in this role. Like film opinions on the film itself out aside. I loved that he was just in this film. I thought it was like great to see him doing this. Every time I see him doing something new, I just still love him even more. I think he's a great actor. Um, I think
I'm with you.
before we go fully into this film, I think I'm just gonna say that I I this is an instance where I'm kind of coming into this very open. I don't have greatly strong feelings towards the film. I definitely enjoyed my time with it. Definitely enjoyed my time with it. But I really think it is at the end of this discussion that I will know how I feel about this film. So
That's interesting.
with that said, Josh, do you wanna just give us some thoughts?
I have very strong feelings about this one. I adore it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I think there are stuff in the second half where it falters a bit. And I'd love to talk about it, but I mean, it's an incredibly like corny, flamboyant for theater nerds. Like it's uh, a whirlwind romance and horror tragedy at the same time. It's really like it's. I think it's just completely delightful, and
I,
I like what you were saying about Adam Driver. I've been in love with him since first laid out with him in Star Wars Episode 7. I remember I even went to
yeah.
see that shitty midnight special film that came out about a year after, just because I wanted to see him again in the cinema. And this has like sent me down a spiral of watching Girl was on HBO and like that bad Daniel Radcliffe rom-com. It's not that bad. It's fine. What if just to see more Adam Driver? I just can't get enough of this guy, and this is probably my favorite thing that he's done so far.
Oh wow, hell yeah, that's awesome. Do you like it more than Patterson then?
I think the film's as good as Patterson. Like I don't like it more or
Okay,
less than
yeah.
Patterson, but I think Drive's performance here
Yeah.
is better than he was in Patterson.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think where my like confusions come from is in the first half. All of those like satire things that feel like they're already mocking the industry and certain things like that, like the laugh song from Adam Driver's stand up, which is genius. I love give me twisted Bo Burnham Adam Driver into my veins, please. Which if it the at first those kind of like satirical jokes come off as quite bitter, and then as it went on, I think I realized that actually a lot of this is love. Like a lot of this is actually like coming from a place of love for certain art forms, which was interesting. I mean, it does draw attention to the just the classic catch-all of satire, which is the best satire is done by people who love what they're satirizing. Um, and yeah, I think this film is gorgeous a lot of the time. I think I was always enjoying all of the musical elements, which are really like, it's not a film with musical numbers. It's normally like very seamlessly interwoven into scenes. Um, like
Like a
a real
good musical.
like a
Actually,
good
if it was almost closer to like an opera, like there's not a lot of just straight up spoken dialogue
yeah.
here.
No, exactly. Normal, it like Adam Driver will come into a scene and he'll say some words in a sort of very like robotic kind of theatrical way, and then he'll sort of not break into song but begin singing, maybe potentially as characters speak normally around him, and the whole thing has this flair and uh like you said, corniness to it that is very endearing. Like that's why I enjoyed Simon Helsberg's performance so much. I found him
Oh my god,
like
he's so good.
utterly empathetic all the time. And he where if you look at his like screen time and what he actually does, he doesn't have an awful lot, but what he does have, he does incredibly well with. I'm really like genuinely very impressed, and but I wasn't actually skeptical towards him anyway.
I have so much to say in response to what you said. So first of all, with the of Leo Carax talk about this film, he's very reticent to like say anything.
Yeah,
I just stare with his shades and gives like very short answers. Like he's very done with interviewing clearly, but he did say he was very inspired by comedians to make this. But he didn't name check Bo Burnham, and I do think there's lots of like the philosophy of Bo Burnham is very much in there. Like if you want to like open up the kind of psychodrama of Adam
yeah,
Driver's character, a lot of the monologues he has about you know not being satisfied by making an audience laugh or not being satisfied by like being in love with someone who's deeply in love with him reminds me a lot of the
yeah,
line from the second Bo Burnham special in during the Can't Handle This Kanye run. This is a great line. Come and watch the skinny kid of steadily declining mental health and laugh as he attempts to give you something he cannot give himself. I do
yeah,
think that like summarizes Adam Driver's character, like the tragedy of this character, in a really good way.
yeah.
Um, through and through, I do think this is like in line with a Bo Burnham kind of piece of work.
Yeah, and it's constantly calling attention to itself in the same way, I would say. But I think, and I mean, well, that's the elements of this of his stand-up scenes that are the most similar. But yeah, it's just navigated so well. All of these scenes, like I think shot composition here is so immaculate. Like everything has this flow, this seamless flow to it. Uh, and it just, yeah, I think it really carries off that sweeping grand story really well because of it. Like everything just flows together so well. Uh, and the very like classic story of again of like the broken artist is just yeah, it feels very respected in this film. It doesn't feel like a half-assed attempt at it. But also it feels like a completely at the same time classical portrayal of it while also being completely radical in adding in like satire and humor and almost camp and ridiculousness. I think it's a really fun film.
I think before we kind of delve more into like the characters and the story, because you made a comment about Simon Helberg's character being very sympathetic, and I didn't
Mm.
dig him that way, if I'm honest. I thought he was almost as not as outwardly malicious as Adam Driver's character, but symbolizing the same problem which both characters are meant to be about, which is obviously like male jealousy,
Yeah,
usually of women. And but yeah, just to like summarize the story for anyone who hasn't seen it, yeah, it is this like operatic tragedy about a comedian in love with a opera singer. The comedian's career goes into decline if he is cancelled. Um, and her career soars. Eventually, he kills her on a boat, uh, but then she haunts him through their daughter Annette, who has her beautiful voice. Um, so they go on tour with this kind of supernatural Annette singing haunting thing, with Simon Helberg playing the accompanist slash later on conductor. Uh,
yeah,
and then there's like tensions of jealousy between the two of them, where he suspects that Simon Helberg suspects that the child is his, and Adam Driver's like, "Oh, no one can know," and he kills him. And then
yeah.
eventually, Annette comes out and says, "Hey, my dad kills people." Adam Driver's character gets imprisoned. Henry McHenry, that's his name, by the way.
Henry
Uh,
McHenry.
and that's the plot. And they sing about the abyss to each other, and then she leaves.
Oh,
And then it's very confusing. Throughout the film, a daughter is portrayed through a doll, and at the end, a real girl uh, saves her and sings a song, and then is carried away, to leave the prison, but then left in the cell as the dead doll.
yeah.
But so it's an ambiguous ending. So that's like just to give people the general kind of idea of what's going on here.
Yeah. On the accompanist character's sympathy, it's more of a like I really get him. I really get like who he is kind of thing. And I think he as an actor fulfilled that role of like the forgotten lover, like the sort of slightly undermined older lover incredibly well. Yeah. So yeah, it's not so much an empathy for like what he does because yeah, he ultimately does just kind of tag along with the tour and everything. Like he puts his name to it. Um, and so yeah, which is exactly what the
Yeah.
film is condemning Adam Driver for. Like, I mean, it's not so much directly condemning him, but like it is meant to be a repulsive act that he uses the voice of his dead wife to to make money through his like what 2-year-old child.
Well, I guess like again, the director Carax was very like reticent to say that his films are like about things or like saying stuff. It was very John Carpenter. Like he just refused to say like it's like I'm not gonna fucking tell you what the message is. Like I don't know. It's a cool
Yeah.
film. But I do think like if there were two thematic takeaways, it would be like men who hate themselves tend to default to like jealous misogyny, um,
Yeah.
and also parents kind of exploit their kids in ways and take out their emotional struggles on their kids. And in the end of this film, Anne, the mother, is also going to be kind of accused by the daughter of
Yeah.
also kind of manipulating her and exploiting her. And it reminds me of Hereditary in that sense. So those are the two kind of, I think, the two big things the film kind of overtly says. I think with the Hellberg character, you really get like the jealousy he has of Anne. Like it's odd that it takes, I think, half of the film to get to the revelation that he and Anne had a fling before she
Yeah.
met Henry McHenry. Because
Yeah.
our introduction to him is this complete loathing. Like he sings, are the teas of being so near yet so far from the stars,
Yeah.
from the stars.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
clearly looking at Anne with jealousy. Like, I'm the one with the brains, but I'm just an accompanist, and like I have to do this self-deprecating song about how one day I'll lead orchestras. And I don't get like love there. I get this weird sort of hysteric in like a Lacanian sense, like kind of like hatred of Anne that makes him like love and adore her. But it's just like again, it's like
Yeah.
it's all about I think misogynistic love, right? Much like
Yeah.
Adam Driver, there's this jealousy and like hatred that comes in how perfect and wonderful Anne seems.
And I think what that opens up is how, like you hinted at, everyone here is a broken artist just as much as Adam Driver. Like I think, and so the film really broadens it out to speaking about who makes art and what kind of person like seeks this kind of fame and fortune, or not even. I think it's not so much about the fame and fortune. I think it's specifically, the film is specifically addressing the ego that comes with being not widely adored but like widely respected for your art. Like all of the artistic modes like that this film chooses to center around, like comedy, like sort of intelligent comedy, intelligent stand up, um, like an opera and orchestral performances. It's not so much centered around like fame and fortune, but rather like the idea of the grand performer.
Yeah,
I
it
love that. I love it because it's
Yeah.
such it's always so expressive as a result, and tonally all of those elements mesh together really well with how lavish this film is musically and visually. So all of it feels very cohesive. All of the units of the film feel incredibly meshed together well.
yeah. What you were saying just now about kind of the film's fraught relationship with fame, right? Is I remember when we were discussing doing this for the podcast, and I was kind of like,
Mhm.
I didn't watch any trailers. I just looked at kind of, I know this is a musical by the guy who did Holy Motors. I have a friend
Yeah.
who adores my old flatmate who adores the film Holy Motors. I haven't seen it yet. It looks like a modernized kind of like The Thing. So something you might like. I might like it too. But I was like, oh man, what a weird turn to like this epic musical. And I did. One of the things I said, no, I mean, sorry to be harsh on the podcast, but I'm looking forward to like a proper epic, good musical because I didn't really get anything out of La La Land. And I thought, and this was going to be like the next coming of like this will be the musical that I'll be like, yes, this is the modern musical. And it really does like the anti La La Land. Like it is about LA, but like you said, all the presentation of fame is so like hollow and like sad. Like I love the the fake news reporting that happens throughout the film on this like tacky green screen as like it tells us the beautiful evocative drama we're seeing. It tells it to us like the most boring, bland, tacky
It's
way.
tacky. It's the, because whenever that happens, the it's not presented as like characters watching it. It's like a really tacky visual moment of suddenly this gorgeous film is this like really like kind of naff news report thing, and like it's just constantly again the film calling attention to itself, and almost at the same time it's like, well, while it's showing all of these people who are broken artists in their grand story, it feels like it's calling attention to the fact that this is also a grand story being told by a broken artist. And so he's constantly like undermining it and being quite self-deprecating about how he's telling the story. Also on La La Land, I was watching this film, and as I was watching it, I thought, man, I don't think I like La La Land. I was like, this is so much better. Like, like even though
I'm not trying to blackpill you on La La Land. I simply want
no,
to
I
make the point. This is like the anti opposite of that film.
So vulnerable young people go to and like ruin their lives and land in poverty out of this, false dream, right? And that film really like does the dream. It does the propaganda of that dream,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
here, I think here there's a statement in Annette of like, even if you do make it, this is hollow. Like this won't help. This
yeah,
won't make you feel good. We have in uh the why did you want to do comedy song? And
yeah,
there's a clear sense that Adam Driver, like in a very Bo Burnham way, you know, can't feel any goodness from kind of being well received or loved or people laughing. And even in the girl
yeah,
from the middle of nowhere song about Anne, how she sings about, I was a girl from nowhere in a singing alone in a room only claimed with four walls. There's this real sense of loneliness and satisfaction. I mean, she finally
mm,
makes it in the song. She describes many men are on my doorstep. Men are on my doorstep. Uh, and I never listened to the men who whispered and came a flame to me. That all this newfound attention as a woman is just as toxic and painful as the loneliness. There's
yeah.
no sense here that there is like a goodness that comes out of fame.
Yeah, it is. I think it's ultimately about that. I think why I say it has a hatred for talent is because that talent makes you think it can save you from the abyss, if that makes sense. Like all of these characters are misguided by the promises of not fame again, but like the idea of artistic recognition,
Respect,
of
yeah.
not being not so much of being famous, but of being considered great, like one of the greats, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so and it's when actually these people are no different from the rest of us. We're all just scrambling around in the dirt looking for like some joy to hold on to, and that talent promises you a refuge and actually it's a lie. And I think like that, but that's why that final song between Annette and Henry is so beautiful, because you have that contrast of knowledge really and experience, if that makes sense. um Annette can't possibly understand how Henry got to this point, how he could ever be this way, and she's not wrong for feeling that way. Like, she is a child and she doesn't have that experience, but also Henry shouldn't be that way. It's just this terrible, terrible world that's done this to him. And there's just such a beautiful tragedy in that final song. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, even the way uh, both the way the film opens and the way the directors behind the film posture
Yeah,
for it is between La La Land and this is so different. Like La La Land, kind of you have this Damien Chazelle, who clearly is kind of created a Gary Sue in Ryan Gosling's character, like this white guy who just fucking loves jazz and like really wants jazz to be popular
and everyone
again.
likes him. He
Yeah,
just his luck. That's all. That's his fate. He doesn't have any flaws. He's just down on his luck, kind of
yeah.
thing.
And I remember I watched, I think it was Damien Chazelle on like a director's roundtable, I don't know, if like Greta Gerwig or something, talking
Mm.
about how the opening musical number of the film was to like usher the audience into like, okay, you are watching a musical, which is a very like real thing. I remember the second time to
Yeah.
see this, it was quite frustrating because there was like, two people next to me who kept like sniggering, like whenever people started singing, and it was felt
Oh,
like
I hate
it was
that.
really annoying. It felt like the thing of like, people get kind of uncomfortable watching musicals, right?
Yeah.
It's like cringy, whatever. But I think about the opening scene that ushers you from La La Land with the kind of all the optimistic people driving to LA and jumping on their cars and singing. And it's so opposite to like how this film ushers you into the musical, where it begins with Leo Carax telling you basically shut the fuck up, don't sing along, just be quiet. Okay, the film's starting now. It's immediate kind of like anti-relationship with the audience, and then so where we start with him like smoking in the studio, looking quite bored, with his daughter draped over him, following the
Yeah.
casting crew as they all sing the overture of this whole thing. There's this
It's time to start.
weird ambivalence to it, and the haunting lines at the end. You may ask, where's the stage? Is it outside or within? there is like something about the futility of like the musical and the performance and how it just won't make any of the actors feel better, you know.
Yeah. And
So
also,
opposite to La La Land in presentation, it's almost incredible.
yeah. What who are you performing for ultimately as well is
Mm.
something I got out of that line of just like I am selling in my success. I am selling myself a narrative ultimately that I am a in like a an artistic genius essentially. I can't find a better way to say it when really there's no actual in the material world there's no way of measuring how genuinely good someone is at their craft. And so ultimately what enjoying your success and your recognition as an artist is a performance to yourself of like who you are and what you are, kind of like you are this genius, you are recognized for the
Yeah.
right reasons. And I think that the film's just really poignant in that way.
I think that's spot on because even you have the line, the authors are here, so let's not show the stain. The authors are here and they're a little vain. And there's also the line about, the budget's high, but we're running out of time and like we feel a bit underprepared. Like there's no. You feel Carax going out the way to remove the mystique and artifice of cinema and to be like, look, I am also a stressed out director working on a budget in a time limit, training these actors to sing. There's something very I love that. I love that about how this film presents itself.
And amongst all of that though, this film still presents itself utterly lavishly. And this is kind of what we talked about with I think it was El Mariachi that we talked about this with. Despite the fact that the film understands all of this artifice and what's actually happening, it still commits. It still presents itself a certain way, and I think that indicates an underlying love for the craft fundamentally. That I think I really admire in Leos.
I think one thing I think the cinematography kind of there's less. First half of the film is, in my opinion, very scattershot and experimental in all the different kind of forms of cinema it kind of like dips into in how it presents itself.
Yeah.
I'm not a film student, so I can't list them all up. But it's very like Lynchian, like all the superposition and like there's a shot after they're having a baby where it plays like fast forward footage of Adam Driver writhing in his sleep.
Yeah.
The hard cut to him like sitting on the baby and then a fake audience laughing on like a black and white screen. Very like Mulholland Drive. Like it was super weird in the first half. And I do think the second half like dips a bit in that ambition. But it cannot be overstated how like visually luscious and gorgeous this film is. And it presents like horniness in an exquisite way. The sex scene while they're singing is genuinely just incredibly
hilarious
and wonderful and like I just wow, I'm flustered. Like it's a very tactile and sensual film. It's really mwah, chef's fingers. It's true keynote of wow. What a camera.
To get into our recommendations, I had a suspicion that you would fall for this film. I think Adam Driver doesn't really miss nowadays as well. Like I think if he's working with if the trailer's good and he's working with a decent director, we're probably safe. It's probably going to be quite a good film.
Yeah, I mean, what's goes and the Adam scenes are so good.
Oh, he's great. I just think well to go back to the beginning of this discussion, I think I've definitely come to like realize my actual enjoyment of this film. It's a film that I felt positive about walking out of the cinema, but I think ultimately, although we talked about very recently talked about how there's almost like a surrealist edge to this film in how formally cluttered it is. I think it actually ties itself together incredibly well. Josh, you kind of mentioned that like in the second half, how that stuff sort of fades away. And I think what that is it's a kind of, yeah, almost like a self-recognition of the film that now the story has been laid in place.
Yeah.
And
No,
now
yeah, it feels a bit on rails, I think, during the like touring the world bit. It feels a bit kind of
it is,
yeah.
yeah, it is like I get it why it's there, but it is a bit more. I was kind of like, okay, the story is just sort of happening now,
Yeah.
and it really comes together in the film sort of climactic moments with Annette's reveal and his trial, and then his ultimate imprisonment and the final song. I think that really, really carries the film into greatness.
Yeah, that's what I was struggling with because I was thinking like both times I watched this, I finished and I'm like, man, this is something missing. And then
Yeah,
it is that whole bit with the arguing with Simon Helberg about whether or not the kid is his and I don't know, it's just slightly I'm less into that stuff. I don't know if I would take it out because I really like the Incompetence character before that. I don't really like Simon Helberg's performance in that argument scene. It was not
really?
as good as the rest of the film. Uh, there's beautiful stuff even in the stuff I don't like.
Yeah.
Like God, the shot of Adam Driver with hair wet, looking blankly into the sky as he's drowning and
Oh,
killing Simon Helberg's character really felt like something out of like Old Boy, like just
yeah.
watching a dude's brain crack, you know. Um,
But yeah, ultimately, I'd give this a like a strong recommend. Maybe more. Maybe I would say like
hmm.
quite a high decent recommend. Um, so yeah, it's great, and it also has a shot of Adam Driver loomingly creeping in and going, "It's tickle time," and it was my favorite line in the whole film. So yeah.
It yeah, no, this is I give it a strong recommend. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Like there's a scene where Adam Driver gives a monologue describing tickling his wife to death that almost like made me want to cry. Um a visceral and carnal performance. I remember in an interview Carax said that when Driver acts in a film or show for the first time, he's like, I need this beast for my character. I need this creature. And that's exactly what he does in this film. And Marion Cotillard's performance here is tender and gorgeous, and her voice is so amazing. Like maybe I
Yeah, she
like
has a great
operas.
voice.
Maybe I should watch operas sometimes because she's so amazing, and the way she sings the no one should be a moth to a flame is so beautiful, and I just adore this film. And one last thing
Mm.
I'll say before we share that, I think Simon Helberg with hair dangling over his face and like as he gradually like becomes more and more manic in his musical numbers, which are amazing by the way, really
Mm.
reminds me of Brian
Oh,
David Gilbert, the YouTuber. The exact same energy as Brian David Gilbert. So
I think that's why
I
I
really
really
value
liked him.
that.
I think I would fight very briefly to save myself from an editing nightmare. I think my favorite musical piece is very brief, but it's the piece where he's conducting an orchestra and he goes, "I'm now a conductor," and he says, "Excuse me for a minute," and the camera
Oh,
swirls
so
around
good.
him, and each time, and he does it 3 times, and each time it becomes more and more manic, and that was I like it gives me chills. Like that was
No,
a
one take.
fantastic sequence. Yeah, one take as well. Incredible, incredible. I love how that actor moves and portrayed that character. Fantastic job. Great film. Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Next week we're doing more 20 film unboxes. We're gonna be doing Squid's album. What's it called again? Give me a second.
Bright green field. Something green field.
Yeah, Squid's album Bright Green Field. In my head it was always like Man Laying in Grass album. But yeah, we're doing that album.
Awesome, awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks very much for listening. Check the description for all our links and all that. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.